The screams started before the cars even stopped. Not when the doors opened. Not when the members waved. No. The entire crowd outside Palacio Nacional suddenly erupted into complete chaos for one reason. Because someone caught a glimpse of Jimin through the tinted window. And within seconds, thousands of armies lost their minds. Phones started shaking. People were crying. Security guards instantly tightened formation. And one fan in the front screamed something that perfectly captured the moment. "He doesn't even look real." But what happened next? That's the part nobody was prepared for. Because this wasn't supposed to become the Jimin moment of the night. Yet somehow, the second he stepped out of that vehicle, everything changed. Mexico City already felt electric that evening. The streets surrounding Palacio Nacional were overflowing hours before BTS even arrived. Purple lights flickered through the crowd like stars. Fans wrapped in BTS flags pressed against barricades, some trembling, some praying, some too overwhelmed to even speak. And honestly, you could feel that something unusual was building. Not just excitement, something heavier, something emotional. Because this wasn't just another celebrity arrival. For many fans there, seeing BTS in person felt like the ending of a years-long dream. Some had traveled across countries. Some had waited overnight without sleep. Some were holding handmade signs with shaking hands because they never truly believed this moment would happen. But even in all that anticipation, nobody expected what Jimin was about to do. At first, the atmosphere was strangely calm. Almost too calm. Security teams moved quickly, communicating through earpieces. Black vehicles rolled slowly through the entrance while fans screamed the members' names one after another. Jungkook, Taehyung, Namjoon. The energy surged every few seconds. But then, one small thing happened. A window shifted down slightly. Just slightly. And suddenly the crowd's reaction changed completely. Not louder. Different. More emotional. Like a shockwave moving through thousands of people at once. Because there he was. Jimin. And somehow, even through glass, through distance, through chaos, his presence hit differently. Why? That's what nobody could fully explain. And honestly, it only got more intense from there. The car door opened. For half a second, everything felt frozen. Cameras tilted forward. Phones rose into the air. Even security looked more alert. And then Jimin stepped out. Black outfit. Soft hair moving slightly in the evening wind. Silver jewelry catching flashes from hundreds of cameras at once. But it wasn't the clothes. It wasn't the styling. It was his expression. Calm. Warm. Almost impossibly gentle. And the second fans saw his face clearly. People started crying. Actual tears. Not dramatic screaming. Not fan service reactions. Real emotion. One girl near the barricade covered her mouth and collapsed into her friend's arms. Another fan couldn't stop repeating, "Oh my God, oh my God," over and over again. And here's the craziest part. Jimin hadn't even done anything yet. He simply looked at the crowd. So why did it feel so overwhelming? That's when the internet started exploding in real time. Videos flooded social media within minutes. Close-up angles. Shaking phone footage. Slow-motion edits. But every clip captured the same thing. The moment the crowd collectively lost focus on everything else. Even though all the BTS members were there. Something about Jimin kept pulling attention toward him. And some fans online started noticing a detail that made the entire moment even more emotional. Because while chaos erupted around him, Jimin kept scanning the crowd carefully, like he was actually trying to see individual faces. Not just fans. People. And that tiny detail, it destroyed ARMY emotionally. But nobody realized what was coming next. Because a few seconds later, Jimin noticed someone. At first, nobody understood why he suddenly slowed down. Security kept moving. Staff members gestured forward. But Jimin briefly turned his head toward the barricades again. And then, he smiled. Not the polished celebrity smile people expect. Something softer, smaller, more human. And instantly, the entire crowd erupted louder than before. But the reason why? That's where this story becomes unforgettable. Because hidden in the crowd was a young fan holding a sign that barely anyone else noticed. A handwritten message. Simple, shaky, emotional. And according to fans nearby, Jimin saw it. Now here's the thing. Nobody knows exactly what the sign said. Some people claimed it mentioned hard times. Others said it thanked BTS for saving their life. The stories kept changing online. But one thing remained consistent. Jimin's expression shifted the moment he looked at it. And suddenly, the atmosphere changed again. You could actually see it in his eyes. That playful calmness faded for a second. And in its place, emotion. Real emotion. He placed his hand over his chest briefly. Just briefly. But ARMY noticed. ARMY always notices. And the crowd reaction became almost unbearable. Because now fans weren't just screaming from excitement anymore. They were emotional too. Why? Because moments like this are rare. In a world where celebrity appearances often feel rushed and distant, this felt personal. And somehow, that made everything more intense. But then something happened that nobody predicted. Something so small, yet so powerful, that fans are still talking about it. As security prepared to move BTS inside Palacio Nacional, the members continued waving politely toward the crowd. Everything seemed normal again. Controlled, professional, expected. And then Jimin suddenly stopped walking. Just for a second. Long enough to turn fully toward the fans one more time. And bow. A deep, sincere bow. The kind that instantly silences your heart before breaking it completely. The screaming around the plaza became deafening. Phones shook violently. One fan behind a live stream literally burst into tears mid-sentence. Because that bow didn't feel rehearsed. It felt grateful. And maybe that's why it hit people so hard. But wait. Because what happened after the bow might have been the most emotional part of the entire night. The members started disappearing inside the building one by one. The giant doors closed slowly behind them. And for a moment, it seemed like everything was over. Fans were exhausted, crying, laughing, trying to process what they just witnessed. But then suddenly, the crowd exploded again, louder than before. Why? Because Jimin came back. Not fully. Just enough to peek back outside briefly. Almost like he didn't want to leave yet. And that tiny return destroyed everyone emotionally. You could hear people screaming his name so loudly it echoed through the entire street. Jimin, we love you. And the craziest thing? Instead of rushing away, he stayed those extra few seconds, looking at the crowd, smiling softly, almost memorizing the moment himself. Why would he do that? That question spread all over social media afterward. And honestly, maybe the answer says everything about him. Because this is what separates Jimin from so many performers. He understands emotion, not in a calculated way. Not in a manipulative way, but instinctively. He knows how moments feel. He notices energy. And somehow, even in massive crowds filled with chaos and pressure, he still creates intimacy. That's rare. Extremely rare. And the American media members nearby started noticing it too. Some reporters who initially focused on the entire BTS arrival suddenly shifted attention toward fan reactions specifically surrounding Jimin. Because they were different, more intense, more emotional, almost impossible to ignore. And this is where things became fascinating. Because even non-fans watching the clips later started asking the same question. What is it about him? Seriously, what is it? Why does one brief glance from Jimin create this kind of reaction? Why do people who see him in person always describe the experience differently than expected? Some say it's charisma. Others say aura. Some call it star power. But honestly, those words still don't fully explain it. Because what happened at Palacio Nacional wasn't just about appearance. It wasn't even about fame. It was about emotional presence, the ability to make thousands of people feel seen simultaneously. And maybe that sounds impossible, but if you watched those videos carefully, you felt it too, didn't you? Now here's where the story takes another turn, because later that night, fan recordings from different angles started surfacing online, and one particular clip suddenly went viral everywhere. Not because of high quality, not because of dramatic editing, but because of one tiny moment most people missed in real time. In the clip, while security guided BTS toward the entrance, you can see Jimin quietly slowing his pace again. Why? At first, nobody understood. Then fans zoomed in, and suddenly the internet lost its mind. Because near the back of the barricade stood a little girl on her father's shoulders, holding a tiny purple lightstick. And for a split second, Jimin noticed her. He waved directly toward her section. The child's reaction? Pure disbelief. Her mouth dropped open. She grabbed her father's head in shock. And the father himself started laughing emotionally because he couldn't believe Jimin actually saw them. That clip spread everywhere. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. And almost every comment said the same thing. He's so genuinely kind. But even that wasn't the full story. Because behind all the excitement, there was another emotion slowly building underneath. Something quieter. Something deeper. You see, moments like these don't just affect fans. They affect the artists too. And throughout the night, there were several moments where Jimin looked unusually reflective. Not sad. Not tired. Just thoughtful. Almost overwhelmed by the amount of love surrounding him. And honestly, can you blame him? Imagine hearing thousands of people scream your name with that much emotion. Imagine realizing your existence means something deeply personal to complete strangers across the world. That kind of love is beautiful, but it's also heavy. And maybe that's why some of Jimin's smiles that night felt slightly emotional. Subtle, but real. And fans noticed. They always notice, which only made the connection feel even stronger. Then came the moment that truly pushed everything over the edge. A fan near the front shouted something in Korean. It was hard to hear through the noise. But Jimin heard it. He turned immediately. And for the briefest second, his expression completely changed. Softened. Almost vulnerable. No performance. No idle image. Just Park Jimin. A human being hearing love from thousands of miles away from home. And right there, in front of Palacio Nacional, with cameras flashing and security moving and fans crying, everything suddenly felt incredibly small, human, real. That's the moment many armies said they'll never forget, not because it was dramatic, but because it felt honest. And honestly, those are the moments that stay forever. By the end of the night, social media was flooded. Jimin stole the spotlight. His energy was unreal. I couldn't stop crying. He made everyone feel special. And maybe that last comment explains everything best. Because Jimin didn't steal hearts by trying to dominate attention. He did it through warmth, through presence, through tiny moments most people wouldn't even think matter. A glance, a smile, a bow, a pause. And somehow, those tiny things became unforgettable. Isn't that incredible? How the smallest actions sometimes create the biggest emotional impact. And maybe that's why this moment at Palacio Nacional hit so differently. It reminded people that connection still matters, that sincerity still matters, that even in massive global fame, humanity can still shine through. That's what fans saw in Jimin that night. Not perfection, not untouchable celebrity energy. Something more comforting than that. Someone who still looked at crowds with genuine emotion. Someone who still seemed grateful. Someone who still paused for people. And honestly, in today's world, that kind of authenticity feels rare. Maybe that's why so many people cried. Maybe that's why the clips spread so fast. Maybe that's why fans are still replaying those moments over and over again. Because for a few minutes outside Palacio Nacional, everything felt real. And if you've ever experienced a moment like that with an artist you love, then you understand. You understand why fans waited for hours. Why voices disappeared from screaming. Why tears came so easily. Because sometimes these moments become memories people carry for years. Not just because BTS arrived, but because they felt something unforgettable. And somehow, Jimin made that feeling even stronger. So now I want to ask you something. If you had been standing there that night, what do you think would have hit you hardest? The smile? The bow? That final glance before going inside? Tell me in the comments. And if this story made you relive that magical moment even for a second, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us for more emotional BTS stories that bring you right into the heart of the moment. Because trust me, the next one might be even more unforgettable.